Kindly be seated. A pleasant morning to all. I bid you welcome to February's edition of the Premier's Monthly Press Conference. As you are aware, these press conferences are designed to give a sense of openness and to give you insight on the plans and programs, the activities within the Nevis Island administration. This morning press conference will be conducted as follows. The Premier will make his usual statement where he will give you updates on the happenings within the Nevis Island administration, after which members of the press corps will be given the opportunity to ask their questions. In so doing, you're kindly asked to give your name and the organization or the media house that you represent. Ladies and gentlemen, join me in welcoming to the podium the Honorable Premier of Nevis, Mark A.G. Brantley.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning to members of the press. I'm happy that we're off to a timely start, and thank you very much for being here for the second of our monthly press conferences. This is one for February, and we were here in January. Let me start by extending some congratulations to Mrs. Dawn Liebert, a woman of Brownhill, my former neighbor. She was included in the Marquis Who's Who and lauded for her expertise in risk and compliance. She currently serves as the General Manager of Risk Management, Trust and Safety Operations at Microsoft and is based out in Seattle. Let me also congratulate Ms. Seba Jones. We are gathered that she's been appointed as a new resort assistant manager at the prestigious Four Seasons Resort, and we say congratulations to her. And we also congratulate another Brownhillian, Ms. Charmaine Powell. She was being honored as the most empowering FinTech lead of the year 2025 by C Today Awards. Ms. Powell is presently the Director and Chief Risk Officer of the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank in St. Kitts. Let me give a few updates from the various departments, as I usually do, and to say to you that from the Department of Education, on the 17th of February 2025, the department would have hosted 24 students and 3 teachers from the Tring, T-R-I-N-G, Tring Park School for the Performing Arts out of England. The team spent the day in Nevis as part of a visit to the Federation, and during the visit, they interacted with over 100 primary and secondary school students, performing for and with the students during dance and drama workshops and performances held throughout the day. The primary school session ended with a STEM-themed play, which has been performed at various schools in England. To wrap up the evening, the group presented a performance to the general public at NEPAC. That performance was the play, The Roses of Eyam, and that had to do with a story, the true story of the village of Eyam in northern England during the era of the Black Plague. I want to thank Mr. Lionel Wallace, Nevision, who was critical in making this happen and ensuring that Nevis was a part of this. I also want to go on record to thank our High Commission in London, and particularly our High Commissioner, Dr. Kevin Isaac, His Excellency Dr. Kevin Isaac, for their role in facilitating this very important visit. We also had a Nevision author who was here, Dr. Teshan Phillip. She has her roots in Jessop's village, and she's the author of 8 books. And she visited the island recently to share her latest book, The Girl with the Magical Smile. She also used the opportunity to launch a kindness challenge, which she encouraged students to be kind to others. During the visit, she shared with students of the St. Thomas's and Elizabeth Pemberton Primary and Charlestown and Gingerland Secondary Schools. On the 20th of February 2025, the secondary schools in Nevis were the recipients of menstrual health emergency kits for girls from a member of our community, Miss Doris Clark. Ms. Clark would have engaged the expat community here in Nevis, and they made donations so that 150 kits were presented to be shared between the 3 secondary schools. The plan is for the donations to continue to replenish the stock and to expand the program. We thank Ms. Clark and all of her donors. It's debating time, members of the press and public, and the Leeward Islands Debating Competition 2025 is going to happen from March 5th to 10th in St. Martin. There are 5 islands participating: St. Kitts, Antigua, Anguilla, St. Martin, and Nevis. And of course, Nevis are the defending champions. The first debate will take place on Thursday, 6 March 2025. Team Nevis will debate in the semifinals and finals, if successful, of course, in the semifinals. Because, and by virtue of the fact that they are defending champions, their first debate will be in the semifinal. And then, if they're successful, they go through to the finals. Those will be Friday, 7th and 8th March. The topics which Nevis should debate are: debate February 7th March, winner debate 1, proposition versus Nevis opposition, and the topic, parental leave should be equal for both mothers and fathers. That sounds rather easy. I think people shouldn't oppose that. That should be the case, that both mothers and fathers get parental leave, but that is the debate. And the Nevis is opposing. So that's an interesting position, that Nevis is opposing that. And then the finals, if we make it to the finals, which would be on Saturday, 8th March, and that debate topic is: without adequate soft skills, Caribbean youth will not achieve their fullest potential. Team Nevis comprises Mr. Jaron Webb, Miss Kalia Huggins Simmons, Miss Shermia Thompson, Miss Tijanique Hunkins, Miss Lorshelle Herbert, and Mr. Kijari Huggins. We wish, of course, our team all the success in the world. The Department of Youth recently launched on February 10th, 2025, recruitment for the Trailblazers Youth Ambassador Program. Following an interview process and final selection, our new ambassadors will be revealed, and they will become the face and advocates charged with promoting and advancing initiatives of the Department of Youth. Who better to lead youth development than youths themselves? Registration for the 2025 Easter Camp has officially opened. It started on February 20th, 2025. Registration can be done at the Department of Youth. Youth Month will be celebrated in April under the theme Youth in Tech, Shaping What's Next. Youth Camp, being an important component of the Youth Month activities, will be dubbed the Tech Dynamos Easter Camp. Activities for the camp will be built around technology and digital transformation. Going to the Department of Sports, we take this opportunity to offer some congratulations to some of our young sportsmen and women on their recent accomplishments. Kalia Jones, a student at Monroe University, she has run a personal best at the Boston University Valentine Invitational 2025 on Saturday, the 15th of February 2025. She clocked a time of 57.22 seconds in the 400 meters, which qualifies her for the NJCAA Indoor National Championships later this month. Alexander Keynes would have won the Heart of America Athletics Conference Indoor 600 meter for the second year running, setting a new meet record. Mr. Shamari Kamali Newton Roberts clocked a personal best on the 60 meters with a time of 6.7 seconds at the Jarvis Scott International Texas Tech. Great things are expected of him in the conference and national championships in the NCAA indoor circuit. We also had a number of divisions booking their spots for Carifta 2025 in Trinidad by meeting the qualifying standards. We extend congratulations to Kimani Newton, Jazavier Amri, Udell Wisdom, and Jaden Hendrickson. Kimani Newton is in the 800 meter, Jazavier Amri on the 17 shot put, Udell Wisdom on the 20 shot put, and Jaden Hendrickson on the 17 triple jump. I'm very happy to see that Nivision students are now excelling and making the team in field events, because for a very long time, field events were not as popular on the island of Nevis, but we have people in shot put, and we are grateful for that. Nivisions, 3 Nivisions have been selected to the Leeward Islands women's cricket team that will participate in the Cricket West Indies tournament, which commences today. Congratulations to Melissa Clark, Rosa Liebert, and Davronique Maynard. Carlin Bowen Tuckett achieved his maiden century in regional first-class cricket for the West Indies Academy in their match against the Barbados Pride. As we know, Carlin is the son of West Indies player Carl Tuckett, now international umpire Carl Tuckett, and we wish young Carlin continued success. He's been having a good season, and we know that in terms of his temperament and his ability, he will go far. The 2025 Ginseng Up Classic is now one for the books. It was co-hosted at the Nevis Athletic Stadium on Sunday, 23rd February. This was the third edition of the championship and the second time that it has been held in Nevis. We congratulate the Bastia High School on winning the championship, but I also congratulate Najib Kelly of the Charleston Secondary School for winning the under-16 class champion and being co-victor Ladorum. The Ministry of Education and Sports will be hosting the Bank of Nevis High School's championship on March 1st and 2nd at the Nevis Athletic Stadium. The event is now entering its 6th year since its revival and the 5th anniversary Bank of Nevis as sponsor. The Gingerland Secondary School, Charleston Secondary School, Nevis International Secondary School, and a specially invited guest school will compete for this year's championship. We, of course, encourage the public to go out and support. On the issue of Black history, they say that February is Black History Month. Truth is that every day we should be celebrating Black history. But nevertheless, for Black history, we had the African drums. And we did this on the 21st of February at the Malcolm Gishard Park. The event was held under the patronage of Halstead Suti Byron in recognition of his sterling contribution, especially in the area of culture, for introducing African drumming to the schools on our island. Mr. Bingy Paris was also recognized for accepting the torch and continuing to keep the art form alive through his efforts as a drumming instructor in our schools. The activity sought to highlight the part the African drum plays in understanding our ancestry and the significance of preserving the art form for future generations. If you have heard these youngsters drum, you know that a good job is being done teaching them. And I've heard them drum at various events, and I would want to commend Suti Byron, of course, who started it, and Bingy Paris, who has continued in that vein. The Ministry of Education, Sports, Library Services, Information Technology, Youth and Sports wishes to extend congratulations to Mr. Jamir Claxton, and I join them in extending congratulations to Jamir, son of Bart Village. He has been promoted to the Principal Assistant Secretary position. He has served as the Director of Sports since 2016 and has consistently gone above and beyond the call of duty. During his time in the civil service, Mr. Claxton has served as an untrained teacher, trained teacher, and sports coordinator. We wish Mr. Jamir Claxton every success in his new role. Let me say a few words on tourism. I'm very proud, members of the press, to say that the Nevis Tourism Authority continues to do excellent work. Recently, during the Super Bowl event in New Orleans, they would have partnered with the Ladies Playbook, which is a group of NFL wives, in order to host an event on the margins of the Super Bowl. And we continue to try to attract affluent African Americans to our shores. The Nevis Mango Festival, please save the date. It will be Friday 4th to Sunday 6th July this year. Friday 4th to Sunday 6th July. The dates also for the St. Kitts and Nevis Restaurant Week have been released, and those are July 17th to 27th. And you are asked to go to www.restaurantweek.kn and vote for tamarind, sorrel, or lemongrass to determine what the ingredient this year is going to be. Last year's key ingredient, we recall, was pineapple. Yesterday, there was a joint retreat by the Ministry of Tourism and the Nevis Tourism Authority at the MGR Park under the theme Tourism for Sustainable Transformation. As government, we are doing more to ensure that we coordinate and collaborate. And for a long time, we had the Ministry of Tourism, which deals with product development, and we had the Nevis Tourism Authority, which deals with the promotion and marketing of Nevis, and hardly did we have them working together. Well, we are changing that. And we had in the same room all of the employees from the Ministry of Tourism and all of those from the Nevis Tourism Authority. We had also the opportunity to award some staff for outstanding efforts. Mr. Anthony Cook from New River, Mr. Warren Ermelin from New River, Ms. Cheryl Tyrrell from the Nevision Heritage Village, Mr. Keto Chapman from the Bath Hot Spring, Mr. Jamie Parry from Fort Charles, Mr. Tarquin Roberts from the Security Unit. Mr. Dwayne Newton was recognized as the ministry's most improved employee. We also recognize the manager, Sylvester Mead, for his outstanding contributions to the development of heritage sites on Nevis, and Ms. Tessa Nana Manners was acknowledged for her transformative role in managing the Nevisian Heritage Village. The NTA, Nevis Tourism Authority, also presented 3 long service awards to Mrs. Tracy Fraser, Ms. Julie Claxton, and Ms. Charmin Jeffers, who collectively have served the NTA for over 60 years. After a hiatus of some 5 years, the Ministry of Tourism hosted a 2025 inter-primary school quiz on Thursday, the 13th of February at NEPAC. The quiz had been sponsored by Nisbet Plantation for many years and now has Delia Walwyn as the title sponsor and Boulder Enterprises as the silver sponsor. The St. Thomas's Primary School emerged as the undisputed winner of the event. However, second and third place could not be instantly determined, as 4 schools were tied in that position. At the end of the tiebreakers, previous champions, the Joyce and Liebert Primary, secured second place, and the Maud Cross Preparatory School came third. We, of course, extend the heartiest congratulations to all of the schools and the staff that got the students ready for the quiz. Let me just share some numbers from tourism, is to say that we continue to track the tax collected by the Nevis Tourism Authority from the application of 2% tourism and development levy, and we continue to see positive movement. In January of 2025, the tax collected was 4.06% higher than in January 2024, and we normally use 2019 as a benchmark. That was the last year before COVID. And in January 2025, we're up 8.05% over where we were in January 2019. What does that look like in actual numbers? We would have collected in January $502,406.97 from our tourism and development levy being 2%. Let me take the opportunity to remind members of the press, members of the public, and particularly stakeholders in the industry that we have as government decided to increase the rate of that tax from 2% to 3%, and that rate increase goes into effect on the 1st of June 2025. The idea behind delaying it was that it wouldn't impact this season, but hopefully will impact the season that will come. And so I wanted to just remind the general public, and we are and will be engaging in some sensitization so that the restaurants and the hotels understand that we have moved it marginally from 2% to 3% in order to see whether or not we can acquire and gain more revenue for the Nevis Tourism Authority that will assist them in their marketing efforts around the world. The Nevis Film Commission is pleased to announce that Juliet Jeffers, who is a daughter of the soil, she is Nevisian. Her father, James Jeffers, was born and raised in Butlers, and Juliet has done a lot of work in film. She began her journey as an artist at the High School of Performing Arts in Manhattan. She moved to LA to pursue a career in acting, and she has been quite successful in TV, film, and theater for over 25 years. On screen, she has appeared in 22 films, 40 TV shows, and over 60 national commercials. She has worked with many highly acclaimed actors, including Will Smith, Jim Carrey, Susan Sarandon, Martin Lawrence, and Rob Lowe. Some of her notable TV credits include Law & Order, which if you're like me, you watch all the time, Law & Order, Organized Crime, 9/11 Lone Star, Criminal Minds, and Grey's Anatomy. Next month, you will see Juliet on Netflix appearing in The Residence, a series by Shonda Rhimes' production company, Shondaland. She has already been given back to Nevis. She conducted 2 acting master classes in Nevis in 2024, where some 30 participants were able to hone their acting skills. And I'm very pleased, ladies and gentlemen, to announce that Juliet will be back in Nevis shortly to shoot a film that she has scripted. The best part about this is that she'll be utilizing our local talent, and Nevis in all of her beauty will be one of the main characters in the film, which of course pleases us to no end. In fact, the Film Commission's tagline is Nevis, the added character in your film. And so we celebrate Juliet. She's one of our own, and she is definitely giving back as much as she can and helping us to build out the film industry. Notwithstanding that you have not heard me saying a lot about it, the film industry continues to be a focus for us, and we continue to engage in training, engage in positioning the island, and certainly engage with persons who would want to shoot films or commercials or photo shoots on the island of Nevis. We continue to do that, and to do that to the best of our ability. Let me switch to the Department of Physical Planning. The 16th meeting of the Conference of the Parties to the Convention on Biological Diversity, COP16, resumes in Rome, Italy from 24 to 27 February. It resumed, from 24 to 27 February, with regional meetings and negotiations on matters relating to the implementation of the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework. Mr. Raoul Pemberton, Director for the Department of Physical Planning and Environment, has been selected to represent the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis in those negotiations on topics such as resource mobilization, capacity building, climate change and biodiversity, marine and coastal biodiversity, and GBF's target 30 by 30. The negotiations are important to ensure that the needs of St. Kitts and Nevis and the wider Caribbean region are properly represented in any global biodiversity agreement. They ensure that sufficient support, be it through technical or financial contributions, would be made available for us to meet our international agreement on implementation of this global biodiversity framework. It's important, I think, to point out that Mr. Pemberton's trip and participation is fully funded by the United Nations. Let me move to the Global Environment Fund Facility, GEF 6 project for St. Kitts and Nevis, improving environmental management through sustainable land management. The goal of that project is to reorient all sectors of the economy towards sustainable resource use policies and practices, which together can provide economic opportunities for our population. The Department of Physical Planning and Environment spearheaded a team that lobbied for certain inclusions on the island of Nevis. These include reforestation of degraded lands in the river, Indian Castle, and areas above the 1,000-foot contour, using traditional fruit trees as well as threatened species. Water storage facilities and irrigation systems were among some of the initiatives proposed. A federal technical working group was established, and to which Ms. Thema Ward represented our local Department of Physical Planning. The outcome of Component 3.1 of the project is increased national capacity to plan for and manage environmental issues through knowledge exchanges. Ms. Ward was selected to visit St. Lucia's Integrated Ecosystem Management and Restoration of Forests of the southeast coast from 17 to 21st February. She experienced firsthand how St. Lucia's project enables sustainable economic development by maintaining healthy ecosystems, sustainable livelihoods, and securing global environmental benefits. It is expected that Ms. Ward will use her knowledge to assist us. And again, it is important to point out that this trip was funded by the Global Environment Facility. Let me go quickly to the distribution of emergency supplies to schools, just to say to members of the press that the Nevis Disaster Management Department, in collaboration with the Ministry of Health, distributed emergency response kits and a quantity of hand sanitizers and face masks to all secondary schools, primary schools, and public preschools on the island during the period 11th to 20th of February. This gesture was done to enhance the emergency supplies at schools, minimize the impact of hand, foot, and mouth disease and the flu on the school population. We continue to respond, and we continue to be proactive in that response in relation to these outbreaks. And we all know that we've had an outbreak of hand, foot, and mouth disease in the Federation, which impacted in particular our younger children. And so we are responding, and I want to commend the Nevis Disaster Management and the Ministry of Health for this partnership. The St. James Primary School and the Ebenezer Church of God would have spearheaded the landslide hazard public awareness campaign for the month of February 2025. And the Disaster Management Group, again in collaboration with the Community-Based Rehabilitation Group, has commenced weekly public awareness programming at the Cotton Ground Community Center. This awareness program is customized for the differently abled persons in our communities. Oftentimes when we talk about training, we talk about disaster preparedness, we forget that there are people in our communities who are differently abled. And so this again is demonstrative of the all-inclusive approach that this government is taking to ensure that no one is left behind. On Thursday, March 20th, the Island of Nevis will participate in the annual tsunami exercise of the Intergovernmental Coordination Group for the Tsunami and Other Coastal Hazards Warning System for the Caribbean and adjacent regions of the Oceanographic Commission of the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization, UNESCO. The purpose of this exercise is to validate and advance tsunami preparedness efforts in the Caribbean and adjacent regions. It is anticipated that all government ministries and offices, private sector, formal and informal businesses, banking institutions, hotels, public and private schools, and early childhood centers located within the tsunami hazard zone will participate in this exercise. If you want more information, please contact the Nevis Disaster Management Department at 869-469-1423 or email info@ndmd.kn. Let me switch then to the critical Department of Agriculture. The Department of Agriculture continues to express, as motorists are expressing, as I have expressed here from time to time, serious concern about the numerous roaming animals on our roads. Key hazard animals include now cattle, sheep, goat. They are all across the roads. Sad part is that when they get hit, it causes damage to people's vehicles. It can cause serious life-threatening accidents. And in many instances, the animals themselves are severely damaged. I continue to preach. I continue to pray. I continue to advocate. I continue to cajole, encourage our people to be responsible. There are some people who every morning they only open their pen and set their animals loose on the general public. And so these animals are roaming the roads. You see them all in the streets in Charlestown. We need to do better. We need to do better. And oftentimes, and all of us who are drivers have had that experience of accidents or near accidents with these animals on our public roads. We encourage again farmers to be responsible. It is not fair. It is not right that your animals continue to make other people's lives a nightmare because the animals are trespassing on people's land, people's property, sometimes all up on your veranda. Sheep and goat are ending up. It is not right. It is not fair. And for somebody to be driving down the road and having their vehicle damaged, sometimes a write-off, sometimes injury to themselves, because you refuse to control your animals, it is not right. And so I can only continue to do what I've been doing, to ask people to be responsible. I'm told some farmers are upset with me, but I don't believe you should be upset with me, because I'm not asking you to do anything other than what is right. If you want to be a farmer and you want to have animals, then you have a responsibility to control them. It is as simple as that. The Department of Agriculture recognizes that we have had a difficulty with eggs and egg prices. In fact, they're suggesting that our local production, we're normally self-sufficient in eggs on Nevis, but our local production is down by some 30%. They say that is due to cold temperatures and shorter days, which affect production. So we are admitting some limited importation, and that even that has impacted prices, because in the U.S. prices have been on the increase, in part because of bird flu. Local production, we expect, should be normalized around March and into April. So we are monitoring the situation, and we expect that our local production of eggs should be sorted out, should be normalized around next month and into April. We have also seen an increase in the number of unknown seeds from various sources. Kindly note that individuals are asked to contact the Department of Agriculture for information, and you can get information as well by following their Facebook page. Now, we tend to try to say to people not to bring in plant material, seed material, because we do not know if by so doing we're introducing species that are alien to us and that can create damage. And so we ask you please to cooperate with us and with the Department of Agriculture so that we can protect and enhance food security here on the island of Nevis. Our Agri Expo 29 will be held on Thursday, March 27th and Friday, March 28th at the El Camino Tonito Willett Park from 9 a.m. both days. If you have not yet registered, we are asking that you do so on or before Friday, the 14th of March. Some areas are already closed because I'm told the response has been overwhelming thus far. Let's talk a bit about Culturama, members of the press. Culturama 51 will be celebrated from July 24th, to August 5th, 2025. Miss Culture Swimwear and Mr. Cool, we had to do eliminations because we had so many applicants to enter those shows. We have done the elimination interview sessions and we have made a final cut. 5 participants have been chosen for each show. The Culturama 51 slogan has been chosen. The winning slogan is this: Nevisian pride, second to none, Culturama 51. Anisha Hunt, who resides in Hamilton Estate, penned the captivating slogan for the 51st anniversary of the festival in 2025. Her slogan was chosen from 105 entries that were accepted between October 4th and November 29th. She will receive a cash prize of $500 and 2 sets of complimentary tickets to all Culturama 51 activities and a plaque. The Culturama Secretariat is now accepting registrations for various events for Culturama 51. They are as follows: Art, Craft, and Food Fair. Registration opens Monday, March 3rd, and the deadline is Monday, June 16th. Now, space is limited, and so we're asking that you register early. The Soca Monarch registration opens March 3rd, and deadline is Friday, May 2nd. Senior Kaiso registration opens March 3rd, the deadline is Wednesday, April 30th. Junior Kaiso registration opens Monday, March 3rd, the deadline is Friday, June 13th. And the Senior Parade registration opens March 3rd, and the deadline is Friday, June 13th. Application forms can be collected from and returned to the Culturama Secretariat located at the Philip St. John building adjacent to the Maud Cross Preparatory School, or you should visit www.culturamanevis.com. Incidentally, let me say a word to those vendors who are still owed monies from Culturama 50, that we are making every arrangement to have everyone settled in very short order. And so I thank you for your patience thus far. These are things that happen from time to time and from year to year based on the cash flow of the administration. I'm told that we still owe about $1 million or so EC, and we are making efforts to have those settled as quickly as possible. So we have heard, we have listened, and we are responding positively. And so I would want to assure vendors who are still owed some money that that is the case. And just so the members of the press understand, based on what I've been told, we have been trying to pay vendors over time, which is quite customary for Culturama. It's nothing new to this government or to any other government. It is something that has happened each year. And so no vendor is owed 100%. We still owe some vendors, but each of those vendors has received some funding from the NIA in satisfaction of their debt. The Department of Marine Resources is firstly reminding all fishing vessels and operators that the extended period to obtain flares is Friday, February 28th, and all fisher folks are invited to a series of stakeholder meetings from February 24th to March 3rd from 6 to 8 p.m. regarding the Fisheries, Aquaculture, and Marine Resources Act and the regulations thereunder. Please, fisher folk, put yourself in a position to learn what's going on and to respond accordingly. The Ministry of Human Resources was able and proud at its second annual Employee Recognition Award ceremony to celebrate and award Mr. Craig David, Director of Information Technology Department. He received the award for being an exceptional, innovative thinker Mr. Venrick Newton, the Marine Field Assistant in the Marine Resource Department, he received an award for outstanding messenger and delivery service. And Mr. Ezekiel Ziki Paris, System Technician at the IT Department, received an award for being the ultimate team player. We extend congratulations to these hard-working public servants and continue to celebrate those who are working hard and encourage those who are not working so hard to put in additional effort. Let me go to the all-important Ministry of Health. On Monday, February 24th, yesterday, the Ministry of Health was the recipient of US $60,000 worth of medical equipment from the St. Kitts and Nevis Social Security Board. This amount represents 2 years' donations. So put differently, every year, Social Security would donate $30,000 US. We did not take anything last year, and so this year they would have donated $60,000 US in equipment. And that equipment included electrical hospital beds for the Alexandra Hospital and Flamboyant Nursing Home, dry vac suction machines, 2 water purification systems, 2 ultrasonic scaler unit and various handpieces for the dental unit, 2 brewer examination beds for community health nursing services. We extend our thanks to Social Security, and I continue to laud Social Security for their partnership in all aspects of our development. Registration is still open for the Health Promotion Unit's Fun Run in the Sun in recognition of World Obesity Day under the theme Pass and the Baton of Good Health. This activity takes place on Friday, March 7th, starting at 2 p.m. For more information, please contact the HPU Health Promotion Unit at 469-5521, extension 6396. The Department of Gender Affairs, in collaboration with the Department of Agriculture, would have hosted a 2-day backyard gardening workshop. The session focused on budget-friendly gardening techniques, emphasizing the reuse of materials for planting and cultivation, as well as the creation of organic pesticides and fertilizers used in household items. A total of 25 participants would have attended that workshop. The Boys Mentorship Program at Charleston Secondary School will be officially launched on February 27th at 10:30 a.m. at the MGR Park. 10 boys will be inducted into the program, marking the 3rd cohort of secondary school participants. The program aims to provide guidance, support, and positive role models to help young boys develop essential life skills, build self-confidence, and achieve personal and academic success. The Department of Community Development will be having music classes at the Cotton Ground Community Center, where we will teach individuals the art of playing the trumpet and saxophone. There will be a monthly fee of $100, so only $100 per month. This class is catering to children from primary school and high school levels. Mr. Seth Williams will be the coordinator and the facilitator. Gifted Games Club. The Gifted Games Club will resume on Friday, February 28th at the Barnesgut Community Center, starting at 5 p.m. It is the department's goal to teach children problem-solving, strategy, trust, risk-taking, and adaptive skills while having some fun. And so we encourage you to get your children involved. Then the agro-processing workshop has been going extremely well, and it has been facilitated by Mrs. Ermin Hendrickson, and she's teaching some new skills, and we look forward to a fulsome report on that in due course. The Brownhill management team has done their food hamper distribution. We would like to commend them for spreading joy and warmth on Monday, February 10th, as they delivered food hampers to villagers in the Brownhill community. This incredible initiative was made possible by the heartfelt contribution of the Berea Chapel. Brownhill management team's ties to its community continue to be forged by their generosity and support. The Social Services Seniors Recreational Group embraced Valentine's Day, the Day of Love. They did so on February 12th at Stella's Kitchen on Long Point Road with different shades of pink. They savored the time with each other and enjoyed the most delectable lunch with good friends and great ambiance. There were 50 seniors along with the staff. On Tuesday, 25th February, the Social Services Seniors Division will be having an outing, that's today, at the New River Estate at St. James. This will be a traditional day as the group will be cooking and enjoying dried potato and mackerel on the coal pot, swank, For you members of the press, the young ones don't know what swank is. Swank is brown sugar and water. And Braybridge. I haven't seen that word. I've never actually seen that word. I've only pronounced it. Braybridge. Braybridge is sour orange and brown sugar as a drink. The seniors will be entertained by a team from NCDF who will be doing performance of the cakewalk dance, and drummers will be beating the bongo drum. They'll be given a tour of the property and be exposed to some traditional games as well. I'm very proud of this seniors program. It is one of the best in the entire Caribbean region. And we continue to demonstrate a government that's committed to our people from the time when they're born. In fact, we're committed to them even before they're born, with all the prenatal care that we provide. We have put OB/GYN services now at our clinics in the villages. So you don't even have to go now to hospital to get care if you are pregnant. So from the moment you get pregnant, we start to take care of that baby. And then once you go through life, the government continues to care, including this seniors program, which has been viewed by many of our neighbors with some degree of envy at what we have been able to achieve. And so I commend Trudy Prentice and the entire team. I commend the minister and her team for the ongoing excellent work insofar as the seniors group is concerned. They will, the same seniors group, hosting a seniors garden competition from March to July 2025. Registration for the competition opens on Monday, 17 March. The garden competition is open to all seniors residing in Nevis from 65 years and up. There'll be 5 categories: the most beautiful floral garden, the best vegetable garden, the most creative container garden, sustainable garden, and the most accessible garden. Stay tuned, of course, for more information. Let me just, I'm coming to the end, members of the press, so let me just touch on 2 quick matters. We purchased some time ago, Nevis Island Administration, that is, in fact, back in 2023, we would have purchased some lands, forgive me. We actually did that purchase in 2020. That's when we did the purchase. I just want to be accurate. I'm looking at the document here to indicate that that purchase, in fact, it was filed in 2020, but the transfer was actually done in 2019. And that was some purchase of some lands at Bath Plain. I've heard a lot of chatter about this purchase. I want to assure the members of the public and the members of the press that what we purchased at Bath Plain was an acreage, and I will tell you exactly how many acres now: 12.7088 acres of land, and that was purchased from an Ursula Huggins, also known as Ursula Huggins Whitney, and we paid the price of $1 million for that 12.7088 acres of land. It covers, of course, from the Bath Cemetery up the hill and into Bath Plain itself. There was an old abandoned property on that premises as well, but the main purpose was that we needed some space for the expansion of the Bath Cemetery. It is one of the main cemeteries on the island, and the advice that we had was that we were running out of space and that we therefore needed to expand. We therefore naturally approached those who owned the lands adjoining the Bath Cemetery, but Mrs. Whitney was not prepared to sell a piece, so we had to buy the whole. We will now determine what we will do with the lands that are on top of the hill, but certainly those that cascade down the hill, we expect to grade and have available for the expansion of the Bath Cemetery. So the price was $1 million, and it is 12.0. Let me get the number right again. Forgive me. I have the documents here. 12.7088 acres for $1 million, which means that we paid, perhaps, if my math is correct, about $80,000 per acre, which works out at about $1.80 or so per square foot, which means that we got that land for less than $5 EC per square foot. So I just wanted to put that on record, because we live in an island now where it appears that misinformation is the order of the day, And it is my job as Premier to give you, members of the press and the public, the accurate information. Let me just update as well, because I recognize, and I've said here before, that mold and the issue of mold now appears to be a big political issue. I'm not sure why, because no government causes mold. No minister causes mold. No policy causes mold. Mold is a naturally occurring phenomenon. And we are here in this room right now. I can assure you that mold is present with us. Mold is present outside in the air that you breathe. Mold is a naturally occurring phenomenon. We have mold in our homes. We have mold at the gym. We have mold on the bus. We have mold in our offices. We have mold everywhere we go. Now, some workers have complained of illness and have connected their illness to mold. I want to give the assurance as Premier of Nevis that we are taking these complaints seriously. Matter of fact, I would have reported in my last press conference that the cabinet of the Nevis Island administration has taken this so seriously that we have now introduced new protocols throughout the ministries for an ongoing process of cleaning and testing. And we have taken the additional step of saying that the test results must be made available to workers in the various departments. Put differently, we want our workers to be comfortable. And we want them to understand that the government is responding in a positive way to ensure that their work environment is comfortable and it is safe. One of the difficulties we've experienced has to do with the courthouse. That is, the courthouse that houses the High Court and Registry. And we have had staff members there complaining. And we have seen, as is the norm in Nevis, for some to try to create some hysteria for political reasons. Again, I don't see why this is a political issue, because regardless of which party is in government in Nevis, mold will still be there. Mold is a natural phenomenon. It's like arguing about the rainfall or arguing about the air that we breathe. That is the nature of mold. It exists and it will continue to exist. We just have to try to manage it. But what have we done in relation to the courthouse more specifically? What we have done is we have introduced, as part of our overall program, a program of cleaning and testing. And we would have engaged in that at our courthouse facility. And we had some testing done by an entity called Breathe Easy. And I'll just tell you what the findings were. And I quote, "The indoor air quality throughout the building," that is the courthouse building, "has returned to levels below ambient air quality, indicating satisfactory conditions. The building is currently safe for occupancy." That is the conclusion of Breathe Easy. But we decided that we would not only use Breathe Easy, we will also use our Bureau of Standards, which is on St. Kitts. They would have sent off the samples to a company called EMSL Analytical Inc., which is in Miami, 19501 Northeast 10th Avenue Bay, AN Miami Beach, Florida, 33179. And they too would have produced their result. And I found it interesting in terms of that analysis, because a summary from our Bureau of Standards, again in relation to our courthouse, says 3 areas, namely, and I'm quoting, 3 areas, namely the registrar's office, courthouse, and judge's chambers, fell within the satisfactory range according to the indoor air quality guidelines. These areas were assessed using the indoor guidelines due to the air conditioning units and the typically enclosed environments with consistent foot traffic. The jury room and the old library slightly exceeded the recommended indoor spore count limit. However, since these areas are ventilated to the outside, the outdoor spore count was used as the benchmark. Under that new criteria, both areas are considered to have satisfactory spore counts. Therefore, remediation is not recommended for the Nevis High Court at this time. So we have 2 independent agencies, Breathe Easy, which, let me go back to their report, they concluded that the indoor air quality throughout the building has returned to levels below ambient air quality, indicating satisfactory conditions. The building is currently safe for occupancy. And then EMSL Analytical Inc. and the assessment done by the Bureau of Standards has concluded that there is satisfactory spore counts and therefore remediation is not recommended for the Nevis High Court at this time. It goes on to say, however, there was one raw count of Chaetomium species, a type of black mold, detected in the jury room that is upstairs. It is recommended to retest this area in 3 months to ensure that this has not proliferated. So put differently, the findings that they've had suggest that notwithstanding the complaints that we've had there, that we are taking seriously, that as a response to our clean testing, that the mold levels at our courthouse are safe, and that the courthouse is safe for occupancy. Now, it doesn't mean that we are going to relent. We will continue to test. I think we have purchased 5 or 6 humidifiers that have been installed there to help us in terms of the air quality. We have also hoped that the recommendations that have been made, the temperature for the AC to be set, the opening of the buildings in the mornings, etc., that too will be done. And of course, we are anxious that those who are suffering whatever symptoms that they get over them and get over them quickly. But in response to issues of mold and people getting sick from mold, the government can only respond scientifically. That's all that we can do. And we have taken a decision to clean and test. And for the record, these results have been shared with the staff. Am I correct, P.S.? These results have been shared with the staff. So I'm not telling the press anything and the public anything that the staff has not already known. One of the things I found was interesting about the testing that was done is that the testing found that the mold count outside the courthouse, that is in the air outside, was higher than the mold count inside the building. And I found that was interesting. Put differently, if you're standing at the courthouse outside on the steps, you're likely to inhale more mold than if you're actually in the building. And that is what they said. In fact, the count was much higher. In some cases, it was 740 spore counts per cubic meter. Inside the registrar's office, it was 180. Courthouse, it was 290. Judge's chambers was 70. Jury room, which was upstairs, is 550. And the old library upstairs, 527. So outside was actually higher than inside. So again, they did that to demonstrate that the building is in fact safe. We are, however, not taking it for granted and will continue with our efforts at cleaning and testing, sharing the results, and then repeat. Cleaning, testing, sharing the results, and repeat, not only at the courthouse, but at all other government buildings as well. My commitment and the commitment of this government is that our people should be comfortable and should feel safe. Ladies and gentlemen, if there are any questions for me, I'll take those now.
Good morning, Premier.
Good morning.
Okay, Hewlett, Department of Information. Okay, you've answered my mold question about the courthouse. Surge in investments. From your vantage point, what is driving this thrust for persons to be investing? And we see it from foreign investment as well as local investment. It seems everybody who has a business on St. Kitts wants to expand into Nevis. In terms of fair share, what was the outcome of the World Bank's analysis? And, well, I was asked if it was told to me, oh, the NIA is backpedaling on pursuing fair share because you're trying to get support from the federal government for the geothermal project. So can you speak to that? And while we're on geothermal, is there any update on that project? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hewlett, for your questions. Investments in Nevis. I think that if we are fair, we will say that we've never seen Nevis attracting this level of both local and foreign investment. In fact, just yesterday at the retreat that was held for the Ministry of Tourism and the Nevis Tourism Authority, I was able to pop across the street and get a cappuccino at Mojo's, which is yet another bistro and bakery French bistro and bakery that has just opened its doors here in Nevis as well, signifying significant investment. I'm aware that we will shortly embark on another restaurant type, entertainment type facility at Pinnes on the beach there. The last available lot has been gobbled up again by another investor. I'm aware that companies like 869 are investing significantly in the Gingerland area. Right here next to our Bath hot stream, we have Lefco doing a significant investment there at the top of Chapel Street, it's called, close to the Methodist Church. We have another significant investment being done there. We have the call center in Brown Hill is indicating to us, Ms. Hewlett, that they are employing an additional 50 persons this year. We have the second call center that is operating there at the St. Jean building at the top of Happy Hill. They have now called to indicate that they want the entire building. The government occupies the top floor, and we are now negotiating to move out so that they can have the entire building. I would remind the public that they started with 8 employees, and they're now over 40. And so they keep growing. So the environment here, and that's just a snapshot. I'm not even talking about the numbers of private constructions and homes that are being built, the investments that continue to be made by the Nevis Housing and Development Corporation, the level of land sales that we are seeing. It is happening. And you're absolutely correct, because I get calls almost on a weekly basis from business owners in St. Kitts, and they're all wanting to set up in Nevis. I'm not sure what they see, but I'm happy that they see what they see, because they're coming in their numbers. And the biggest problem that we now have is space, because a lot of them are saying, could I get a place to rent to do my business, right? We see the expansion of West Tech, we see the expansion of E-Zone, we see the expansion of all of these companies into Nevis, and we continue to encourage that. I had a conversation recently where I indicated that we also are hopeful, Ms. Hewlett, that we will see bigger companies like TDC and hospitals and those continue that trend. I think the last major investment we saw from TDC in Nevis was several decades ago, which was the complex at Pinnes. So I'm anxious for bigger companies like them also to enlarge and expand their footprint. We know that TDC, for example, has done a lot of work in housing and accommodation on St. Kitts. They've never done a project on Nevis in that regard. So I continue to use this rostrum to encourage the larger companies. But for sure, the smaller investors are coming, and they're coming in their numbers to the island of Nevis. And our local people as well are investing. So, for example, you would have seen, no doubt, one of my dear friends and big presence on social media, Milo Freeman, Milo Box Freeman. And Milo would have put out that in the last 3 days, St. Kitts and Nevis has received almost 400 vehicles have come in to the port in St. Kitts. Of the shipment of 312, there was one shipment, single shipment, 312. I'm advised that 112 of those are coming to Nevis. I don't know of the other 2 shipments, smaller shipments, how many. But of that 312, 112 are headed to Nevis, which means that more than 1/3 of those vehicles are headed to Nevis. It says a number of things. It tells us, of course, that our people are investing in bigger ticket items such as vehicles. People don't invest unless they have some confidence, whether in terms of their income, their job security, or monies that they've saved, or the fact that they're bankable because their bank is prepared to lend them money. But it is an indication of activity in the economy when people purchase big ticket items like vehicles. On the downside, if I would say there's a downside, we have to be prudent and careful about how we manage, because more vehicles on the roads means that we have to be more careful the way we drive. I go back to the point I made earlier about animals roaming. Animals roaming on our roads and more vehicles on the roads, together, that's a recipe for disaster. And so we need our drivers to be more prudent. We need them to be more sensible. It also, of course, increases the pressure on parking, for example, in Charlestown. I know people have been putting an inordinate pressure on the government to say that we need to provide more parking in Charlestown. I have responded to say that the government really doesn't own a lot of real estate in Charlestown. And what I would do is encourage those who own real estate, particularly those who own vacant lots, to convert them to parking, paid parking, so that individuals can choose to use those lots if they so desire. But I believe that where we have this constant sound and fury about things being so dead and so desperate, that these numbers of vehicles coming into the island, not for free, but that people are purchasing, that is significant. I did some rudimentary math in my head, and I said, if those vehicles are even averaging 10,000 EC dollars each, I don't know what the cost is, but if you multiply that by 112 that are coming into Nevis, you start to see a significant investment that people are making in procuring vehicles. And so, big ticket items, it means that people have confidence. And I think that that's an important indicator of where the economy is and where the confidence lies. So the investments are coming. I also intend, Ms. Hewlett, to have some very major announcements to make. But I think those who know me know that I don't announce until I have something on the dotted line. But I can tell you that we are in the throes of negotiating some very significant large-scale investments into the island of Nevis, and we'll come to the public in due course with those. Geothermal update, I have no further updates since the last time, except to say that because of the Saudi Development Fund, we have secured the gap funding that we were seeking for the drilling phase, which means that we now have $17 million from the CDB, $20 million from the Saudis, and which allows us to move forward. The bids, as I understand it, should be opened the end of this month. We went to the second round of bidding on the drilling, and I'm hopeful that this time around we'll have had a successful bid and we'll be able to move forward very shortly. So I'm hopeful that by the next press conference, God willing, I will have something to report substantively on where we are in terms of geothermal. Now, the issue of fair share. Allow me a moment to talk to that issue, to speak to that issue. Because I hear everybody and their cousin is now using language that perhaps I'm responsible because I popularized that language of fair share. And many have had various things to say. But I think that everything that we do in life and say in life requires context. There was a time when three political parties, People's Action Movement, the Concerned Citizens Movement, and the People's Labour Party, entered into something called Team Unity. And Team Unity was entered into on the basis of certain mutual promises and commitments that were made and that were reduced into writing. There was a document called the Charlestown Accord that was signed by Timothy Harris, the leader of PLP, Vance Amory, the then leader of CCM, and Sean Richards, the then leader of PAM. I was not a signatory to that agreement, but that agreement was signed, and I'm pleased to say, and I hope history will record, that I actually drafted the agreement. So the agreement was signed. What did that agreement provide? It provided various things, but in part, the agreement provided for a fair share for Nevis from the proceeds of the Citizenship by Investment program. It spelled it out in terms that the people of Nevis would get a share of the Citizenship by Investment proceeds based on population. That's what the agreement said. And that agreement, let me reiterate, was between PLP, PAM, and CCM. On the basis of that agreement, we went into a coalition as an election, and on the basis of that agreement, Timothy Harris of the PLP, who won a single seat in 2015, that is, the PLP won one seat, he was given the role of Prime Minister. He was given, as we would say in local parlance, the big chair. And he was given the big chair. Why? Because that is what we agreed. PAM and CCM honored that agreement and elevated Timothy Harris to the role of Prime Minister. All of us here in this room are sensible people, and everybody listening have sense. You can't become no prime minister with one seat unless other people make you prime minister. Timothy Harris didn't lead a party that won any election at the poll. PAM won 4 seats in St. Kitts. CCM won 2 seats in Nevis. PLP won 1 seat. That gave us a total of 7 seats to form a government. And those 7 seats, 4 plus 2 plus 1, formed the Team Unity administration in 2015. Dr. Harris became prime minister because that was what was agreed. And we honored that agreement. No. And we have heard him say, what Charleston Accord them talk about, that ain't no agreement. What them talk about? Because what was used to assist Dr. Harrison becoming prime minister, he then turned his back on it. I think you all would be familiar, members of the press, with the great Shakespeare play, Julius Caesar. And when they tried to convince Brutus, who was an honorable man, to join the conspiracy against Caesar, one of the things that was said to Brutus is that lowliness is young ambition's ladder, whereto the climber upward turns his face. But when he once attains that upmost round, he then unto the ladder turns his back, scorning the base degrees by which he did ascend. That is the story of too many of us. When we cross over a bridge, people help us to get to where we want to get to, and then we scorn the base degrees by which we did ascend. We kick down the ladder that we use to get to the heights that we achieve. We say the Charleston Accord doesn't matter when we would have used it to become prime minister. Now, I want that background to be clear because there can be no discussion about fair share in the political context without an understanding that fair share was agreed to. Just as the prime minister was agreed to, fair share was agreed to. And what started to happen, ladies and gentlemen, is that when we got into government, my lead at the time was the Honorable Van Semering. And we started to get $2 million a month from CBI. At every point that we got something, you know what we were told? It was interim. We were told, hold that for now while we work out what the share going to look like. So we got $2 million. And yes, $2 million was a lot because before we never got anything. As we know, when Nevis got money, it came by way of loan. But we got $2 million a month. Hold that for now. None of us in here doesn't understand that. A man owe you money and he tell you, man, hold $10, I'm going to come back with the rest. So hold that for now. After a while, we agitated, and the $2 million was increased, I think, to $3 million. And again, this is interim. Hold that. But time is going. And then that $3 million became 4 interim. Hold that for now until we work things out. But guess what? By now, for 5 years of Team Unity is now over. We are about to go into Team Unity 2. And absolutely, the money that we were getting was more because if you get $1, it's more than 0. So we were getting more than we'd ever got from CBI into Nevis. Absolutely. You can point to the water taxi facility, the Mondo track, the new Treasury building in Charlestown. All of those were funded from funds that we received. Water, electricity upgrades, bought new generators. We spent money in Nevis on what I would call our sustainable development. That is why we don't have some of the problems in Nevis that there are elsewhere. We were doing the right things with our money. But the time kept going. And before you know it, it was 20. Well, COVID intervened. So let me not suggest that it was easy all along. But even during COVID, CBI continued to earn hundreds of millions of dollars. Nevis continued to get $3 million and then $4 million a month. So, at $4 million a month, you got $48 million for the year. Even if, as in some years, CBI brought in $600 or $700 million, Nevis only got the 48. And we kept being told, hold on to that. It's an interim measure. 5 years gone. We were distracted for 2 of those years by COVID. But then the election of 2020 came. The PLP now won 2 seats in St. Kitts. Tam held on to 4 seats, and the CCM, for the first time in its history, won all the seats in Nevis. So where we had before 7 seats, we now had 9 seats in the National Parliament. And I was now the leader of CCM. By 2020, I was the leader. And I therefore was the one who took the party into that election. And I said, no, you see this thing here, the Charleston Accord, this is the basis on which we are in this thing, you know. I didn't enter into Team Unity because I had some liking for somebody. My love was for Nevis. I wanted to see what Nevis could benefit and to ensure that the people of Nevis, for the first time, were able to access the full fruits of their citizenship. That was my purpose. And so while others used it for their own purposes, that was the purpose. So after it became apparent, I went, and I'll tell you, because many people, the government imploded for that and other reasons. Because my view was that the Charleston Accord was the basis of Team Unity. And if you're now going to use it to get to the prime ministership, but then tell me that it's not what the paper is written on, it means, therefore, that there's a little thing that I value, which is called integrity, that you have none. And so Team Unity collapsed under its own weight. People say I brought down Team Unity. CCM didn't have the capacity to bring down Team Unity, because Team Unity had 9 seats. You only need 6 to form a government. PLP had 2, and PAM had 4. So CCM could have left Team Unity, and Team Unity would still have survived. The truth is, as Sean Richards has made clear, that he is the one who made that call, because truth be told, only PAM could have brought Team Unity down. And he made that call, and when he spoke to me, I said, I agreed with you, because we had moved away from all of the principles. Well, let us not say we. The Prime Minister of the day had moved away from all of the principles that had underpinned Team Unity. So, I say all that to say that Prime Minister Drew and the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party never signed any agreement with me about fair share. I have never been in any alliance with Labour. Labour didn't have any Charleston Accord or Basti Accord with the CCM and with Nevis. And so people now say, oh, how come you're not making noise with Drew about fair share? I said, because Drew never signed an agreement with me and said that in exchange for or in furtherance of the political support, I will ensure that Nevis gets its fair share. No, I'm not suggesting that that absolves the person in the position of Prime Minister from ensuring that the island of Nevis gets what's due to it. But I think that that point that I'm trying to make has often been missed or ignored. And people say, Mark Brantley was making plenty noise about fair share and he's not making as much noise now. I was making plenty noise because that is what I signed up for. That was the written agreement. And any of you don't accept it, go and see the Charleston Accord. Timothy Harris became Prime Minister because CCM lent its support. And CCM lent its support because we signed an agreement which said that this is what Nevis would get. And so obviously when that was not happening, I had to make noise because it was reneging on what was promised and committed to. I can't go and tell Prime Minister Drew, you have reneged on your commitment in relation to fair share, because I don't know that Prime Minister Drew has ever made any commitment. Prime Minister Drew has said he wants to ensure that the entire country benefits from what is on offer. But I think that the context and the politics is important. So what I have decided to do, and what I've been doing with the Prime Minister Drew, is seeking to develop a relationship between St. Kitts and Nevis, between Premier and Prime Minister, and to say there are certain things that need to happen. and that the people of Nevis need to benefit, yes, from CBI, yes, from geothermal exploration, yes, from ensuring that Nevis gets the taxes that are generated by economic activity in Nevis. And I have pressed on those people who listen to budget debates, for example, ought to have heard, if they're paying attention, that those points were raised and articulated by me. So, the issue of fair share, where are we now? The Prime Minister of the day has said that he has asked for assistance from the international community. He has said he has done that because, unlike Team Unity and the Charleston Accord, where we only looked at CBI, he's saying he wants to look at CBI and other taxes and non-tax revenue. So he wants a more comprehensive analysis. The last time I met with him, which was about 3 weeks ago, he indicated to me that the report had been obtained, and I think he has since said so publicly, and that he was asking his Ministry of Finance and his technocrats to do an analysis on that report. I have not seen the report as yet. I have said to him that I need a copy of the report so that my team in Nevis can also do their analysis to determine what it is that this World Bank report says. But as I stand here today, I have not yet seen a copy of the report that the Prime Minister, that is Prime Minister Drew, says is available. So it is not that I have abandoned at all the quest for Nevis to get a fair share of whatever is available, and not just money, but opportunity. You see how we just here say that Mr. Diora Pemberton from Nevis is the one in Rome representing the Federation. That's what we ought to become. It doesn't matter that he's from Nevis or he works for the NIA. If he's the best person to go off to Rome to represent the country, then let him go. That is also part and parcel of the fair share. Since Prime Minister Drew has been there, I have said so publicly, that Prime Minister Drew has offered to Nevis 25% of funds that he has received from certain friendly governments to assist in development. Those funds total $7.5 million US. Nevis has over the past years under Prime Minister Drew been collecting 25% of that. Almost $2 million US. It is what we used to develop Pinnis. It is what we use to develop our, for Culturama, the cultural complex and the cultural village. And we had a little bit left over that we put into the Bath Stream. What I found was interesting is that Prime Minister Drew, who I don't have no agreement signed with, called me when he got into government and he said, Premier, you know he talk, Premier, you know anything about this money? And I said, no, Prime Minister, I never hear nothing about it. He said, how you mean? I said, this money has been coming into the office of the Prime Minister for the last how many years? You don't know anything about it? I said, no, I never heard about that yet. He said, well, from now on, Nevis will get 25%. That's a Prime Minister who I don't have no agreement with. That's a Prime Minister who I'm not in cabinet with. The one that I had an agreement with and the one that I was in cabinet with was collecting that money every single year, and the people of Nevis knew nothing about it. What he used the money for, I don't know. So when people start this comparison and say, oh, this and that, I say, listen, if Nevis got $100 billion under Team Unity, we deserve that and more because we are the ones who put Team Unity in government. Without the 2 seats in 2015, there could be no Team Unity government. And that was the agreement. We had it in black and white. This is what we would do. We honored our part and elevated a man with 1 seat. I remember our regional leader said to me, saw me at a conference, and he said to me, boy, y'all really give a man with 1 seat the big chair? And I said that was what we agreed. But you see, in politics, there's some people who have principle, and there are others who have none. And the principle is what led us to ensure that Dr. Timothy Harris became the third prime minister of this country with 1 seat. And you realize since Team Unity mashup, he gone back to 1 seat. And I suspect that he's going to stay at 1 seat. Because there is no strength. There's no strength. CCM went into Team Unity with 3 seats in 2020. 2 in 2015, we increased it to 3 in 2020. 2022, after Team Unity collapsed, CCM came out with the same 3 seats that we had before the collapse. What does that tell you? What does that tell you? It tells you that for the people of Nevis, the Concerned Citizens Movement was still the only choice. People's Action Movement had 4 seats. They ended up with 1. PLP had 2 seats. They ended up with 1. So everybody lost ground except CCM. So it really speaks to the strength of the parties that were in Team Unity. The difficulty that we had with the PLP is they started to believe their own nonsense. And you took 1 seat, you elevated that 1 seat, and that 1 seat started to believe that he got there on his own. So no tell him nothing about no Charles. So Charleston a card I talk about. Me no I hear nothing about that. The ladder that he used. He now scorned the base degrees by which he did ascend. And so that's why he over somewhere in Taba pasture, he gonna stay over there. Right? That is the reality of what has happened. So I have taken a very long time, Ms. Hewlett, to explain this fair share. But fair share came about because there was an agreement which was breached. And that is what ultimately contributed to the collapse of the Team Unity government. Are there any more questions for me?
Yolana Weeks, Win FM. Good morning.
Yolana, you say?
Yolana Weeks. Win
Good
FM.
morning, Ms. Weeks. Welcome to Nevis.
Thank you. Is it
You're
true?
from Nevis?
Yes.
Oh, my apologies.
Is it true that Patrick Dry is no longer an investor in the airport's project? If that is true, who is the new investor? It was said that the airport project construction will begin at the end of the first quarter of 2025 and open for business in December 2026. Is it still on par to begin at that time? What is the status of the lighting at the Nevis Athletic Stadium? We've been hearing a lot about 17 degrees north. What is the connection between 17 degrees north and the Nevis Island administration? Is it true that representative of 17 degrees north has been approaching landowners and residents in the area of Long Point to Butlers, trying to negotiate the sale of lands there? If yes, what is the reason?
Thank you very much for your questions. Patrick Dry, no longer an investor. You say you're from Win FM. I think Win FM is a reputable news agency. Stop reading so much foolishness. Every morning I wake up, I can't keep up. It look like people just go sleep and they wake up in the morning and say, let me throw this out there. And the difficulty that I have is our established media gobble it up and start to talk about it and make it, give it life. Utter rubbish. I saw some stupidness somebody said me the other day that Bill Gates is now financing the airport and putting in $70-something million and the airport. They even give you a figure, you know, $70-something million. I said, my goodness. I wonder if Mr. Gates is aware. Because we have had no conversation with Mr. Gates about any airport. Mr. Drahi remains on board as the investor with us. And I don't know where these Nancy stories are coming from, but to put it directly to you, there is absolutely no truth to the idea that Mr. Drahi has pulled away. The airport expansion plans, we are still on target. I will tell you that the difficulty we've had has really to do with some practicalities of the land purchases that we need to do in the area. We have secured the loan from National Bank, but we keep going back and forth, them saying they want this, they want that in terms of supporting documentation. So the money is there. It's just a question of us doing the drawdown and doing the payout. In the meantime, the lawyers are doing their work in order to have the transfers done in a seamless fashion. So we expect that once those lands are acquired, we will fence and we will proceed. One of the first projects you're going to see over there is the new road, because we have to realign the island main road. So we hope to get that going very quickly. You said the end of the first quarter, we're not quite there yet. So I'm hopeful that we'll be there in short order. Lighting at the Nevis Athletic Stadium. I think the last report we got from our Minister, the Honorable Troy Liebert, is that the lights are here, and I expect that they therefore will be erected in short order if they have not yet been erected. I confess, prior to this press conference, I didn't check with it. But I do know that the lights were ordered. They had to be FedExed, I think, in by, what do you call that, urgent delivery? Not the usual delivery. They were expedited to get them in. And I'm certain that those will be fixed in short order. 17 degrees north. I have to smile because 17 degrees north is my wife's business. It's owned by Sharon M. Brantley. And there has been, it appears, some effort to attack me through my wife. So let me go on record since you've asked the question. 17 degrees north existed prior to my entry into politics. It is my wife's business, and she's entitled to have a business just as you are, and just as anybody else in this island is entitled to have a business. As I understand it, 17 degrees north is into real estate, buying and selling of real estate. And if, Miss Weeks, you have a bit of land to sell or a house to sell, and you decide that of all the real estate firms in Nevis, and there are several, that you're going to give 17 degrees north a call, then you have hired them to do a job on your behalf. Now, what does that have to do with government? I can't quite figure out. How is government involved? I don't understand. So, again, going back to my admonition about the established media, I see somebody sent me recently some story. I don't know what the story is. The story proceeded like this. We don't know what is happening, but what is happening is wrong. Well, if you don't know what is happening, shouldn't you try to find out what is happening? And you see, it is part and parcel of an ongoing effort, unfortunately, by the opposition in Nevis. Loud, ill-informed, and, frankly, purveyors of falsehood, where every morning they put out a headline. Nevis is the only place in the world for 36 square miles and 13,500 people where there's a scandal every day. There's a headline every day. If it's not mold, if it's not some financial scandal, it is always some bacchanal going on in Nevis every day. I can't keep up. And so I have resorted to my old adage of ignoring the noise. I really can't keep up. And what I'll say to the media, sometimes when these people put out these things, ask them the question, because if you listen to what they're saying, I don't know what's going on, but what is going on is wrong. Well, if you don't know what's going on, hush your mouth. Wait until you find out what's going on, then you comment. So all I can say to you is this, that I'm aware that there are investors who are looking at significant investments on the island. As I've said, when I have information, as is my style and the way that I've tried to manage the affairs of Nevis, I will definitely come. You won't have to ask me, because I will come to you and give you that information. I have no information to report as yet, except that I am aware that various investors are looking at investing on the island of Nevis. If you're going to do, Ms. Weeks, property, hotel, resort development, you can't do it without land. You're going to build it in the sky and build it in the sea. You have to land. The Four Seasons Resort, I don't think there's any sane Nevisian, or Kittian for that matter, who would argue that the Four Seasons Resort did not catapult Nevis in terms of its development, in terms of its economy. You have nearly 1,000 people working down there. That was 30-something years ago. Where they built it on? They built it in the air, in the sky. They had to acquire land. And I believe they acquired, what, probably just about 400 acres of land to build that resort and golf course and villas. To this day, Four Seasons continue to expand. They've just announced that they're going to be doing some condominium development down there as well. And the funny thing about it is, the party that finds itself in opposition in Nevis, one of the key things they boast about is they brought the Four Seasons. One of the key arguments that they make against me and my government, you not bring no big hotel. You all have not brought any big investor. But every time they get a whiff, as I said, they don't know, but they just hear something, they go on and they give big statement. And the statements are always negative. When we announced, for example, that we were partnering with Mr. Drahi to do the airport project, I don't know if you covered it, there was a massive 5-man march over there. 5 people, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, with some big placard. Said they're marching. What are they marching against? We had not even announced the project. All they heard was that an investor was partnering with the NIA to develop the airport. Now, which division, Ms. Weeks, would not want our airport developed? Which division? It's a matter of pride for us. I'm so happy to hear you from Nevis. It's a matter of pride for you too, to develop our airport. So our people must always be dependent on RLB to come in and out. The possibility of getting straight flights from Miami and thing to Nevis, we should abandon that. They don't even wait until they have information. They went to say they're staging a protest. And over there, with the 5 of them in the hot sun. That has been the nature of the opposition in Nevis. MSR Media came here, employing nearly 100 people, making some movies. Oh man, 1 ton load of cussing. People are this, they're that, they're the other, they're the terror. It's constantly negative. And as I said, the news, quote-unquote, story that I saw was that I don't have any information on this project, but it's a bad thing. Well, I tuned out at I don't have information, because if you don't have information, you can't say it's good or bad. You can't offer an analysis because you've admitted you don't know what's going on. Well, if you don't know what's going on, then be quiet. Try to find out what's going on. And the only way that we find out what's going on is when there is an actual project proposed that we can then come to the public. So, you say 17 degrees north? 17 degrees north has 0 connection to the government. 17 degrees north is not involved with any government land. It has never sold or purchased for anybody any government land. And when we're dealing with government land, whether we're buying or selling, we go through the Nevis Housing and Land Development Corporation, which is a statutory entity. We don't engage with private, realtors when government is involved in the buying or selling of land. So, I don't know what else to say. I just find it odd, Ms. Weeks, that it seemed to be that some, in the effort to get at me, well, my goodness, they have attacked the judge, they've attacked lawyers, anybody who walked down the street and at some point said hello to Mark Brantley, they've attacked them. They biased, they this, they that, they the other. And I'm not sure what they hope to achieve by that approach. Because if it is, the opposition in Nevis is now saying that anybody who offers themselves for public office, they nor their families can have a business. Well, if that's the rule, then that's the rule, but you must introduce that rule. You can't make it up as you go, because that seems to be the position. So if I offer myself for elective office, I must say to my wife, who's had a business prior to me getting involved in politics, I'm sorry, darling, but you have to shut it down. And I must tell the 13, 14 people who work at the law firm that I developed, Daniel Brantley, I'm sorry, all of you must go home, because I'm now involved in politics. Now tell me if that could make sense anyway, that is now the approach. So I don't know why. Well, I shouldn't say I don't know why. I do know why. There's an effort to attack, there's an effort to denigrate, there's an effort to go after people and to try to allege all kinds of things about people. But what I find, Ms. Weeks, that is most telling is that for the documented failures of some of these commentators, they have nothing to say about that. There was just a big case in the High Court involving Clarence Fitzroy Bryan College. and nearly $500,000 that disappeared. They say it fall off a truck. I don't hear a word being said about that. And that was only the money, because that was the fees that students paid. Students paid over $800,000. And during the tenure of one of them who talking the most, he's the man in charge, only 300 and something thousand reached the bank. Nearly $500,000 disappeared. Poof. Gone. Nobody knows where it gone. Then, you had money taken out of people's Social Security, but it didn't reach Social Security. You had money taken out of the pension, but it didn't reach pension fund. But are they engaging in that kind of talk? No, they say 17 Degrees now is owned by the Premier's wife, and they're doing what they do. They're selling and buying land. That is what realtors do on behalf of clients, and something is wrong with that. But $500,000 gone, poof, drop off a truck from CFBC to Tongue. CFBC to Tongue is about 2 miles. And in that 2 miles, $500,000 drop off in the drain. Give me an area and sink it. Where that care? Newton, you don't have to pass through Newton. McKnight, coming down the road there, poof, the money gone. And those are the people that are lecturing decent, hard-working divisions, tax-paying divisions, about matters to do with how they ought to operate their business. The leader of NRP, who was in charge of a unit in the Virgin Islands, Coastal Zone Management Unit. From her own lips, she said that people associated with that unit went to prison, got extended prison terms. I believe one got 9 years, a fellow called Plaskett. Don't take my word for it. You're going to do the research. One got 9 years in federal penitentiary, one got 7 years for what she described in her words as white-collar crime. I don't know what name so. All crime is crime. Fraud and corruption in a unit that was headed. And the answer is, nobody should ask about that. But you should ask about my wife, who owns a business that is registered, that has existed prior to my politics, that pays her taxes, and that does everything that she does above board. Which of the queries we will embark on? I want to know who thieved the money at CFBC. Money went missing up there daily. I want to know who took that money daily. I need to know. How did that money fall off that truck on a daily basis? Nobody seems to be asking the question. That's what WinFM I want to ask them, you know. Maybe they don't answer me, but they'll answer you. Right? You said it was a daily occurrence. It was. Thieving on a daily basis. And nobody must ask nothing about that. People gone jail in the Virgin Islands. Nobody must ask nothing about that. But anybody who is seeking to do something the right way, the decent way, you must vilify them and attack them because they have a connection to Mark Brantley. I tell people all the time, you know, Ms. Weeks, that if I was interested in money, I would have stayed in my law office, because that's where I used to make money. I don't make money in government. And I challenge anyone out there to come forward and point a finger in relation to my administration to say that I or anyone in this administration has taken anything, done anything untoward, or benefited in any way from our office. That's not me. That's not what I stand for, and that's not what this government stands for. And I pride myself, you know. Van Samuel, of blessed memory, he said, listen, never let it be said of us that we did this. And he has gone to his grave, but that lesson has resided and persisted with us. And that is why you don't hear no scandal. You hear them say all kind of things, but you never hear no scandal about the NIA. Because we don't engage in that. And I say to my team all the time, I said, that is not something that we engage in. Let us not let ourselves down, our families down, and the Nevision people down. So, I hope I have explained to you who 17 Degrees North is and what it is they do. As I say, for the avoidance of doubt, private entity that sells real estate on behalf of clients as all other realtors on the island who are licensed to do so are engaged in. But the government does not use realtors of any kind, and we certainly have no relationship with 17 Degrees North or any other realtor for that matter. Okay? Are there any other questions for me?
Good morning, Mr. Premier.
Good
Good
morning.
morning, everyone. Jarvis Brown from Vaughan Radio. Just several questions, really. Yes. As it relates to the Returning Nationals Concessions and Incentives Initiative, can you give like an update or information about, the results so far? The other question is, as you talked about mold earlier, about the Charleston Police Station. Can you give an update on that as well? As it relates to, of course, you, sir, being a past lawyer, we've understand that as of late, a few lawyers have been charged in saying it's pertaining to corruption and so on. What is your take on those recent developments? As it relates to the fact that to go on the international scene, so to speak, in light of these ceasefire talks pertaining to Hamas and Israel, if things follow through and there is an end to the war, what benefits can SKN citizens and residents expect from the peace talks and, this eventual end? What is the government doing to clamp down on persons or businesses that owe thousands of dollars to both NEVLIC and the Water Department? Part B, doesn't the NIA find it a bit unreasonable, of course, that persons can be disconnected for owing hundreds of dollars in utility bills, but yet there are people who owe thousands of dollars and yet they remain connected? And finally, sir, can you give an exact time frame as to when persons can expect their performance-based incentives, or rather increments, sorry? And those are my questions. Thank you.
So Jarvis Brown, Mr. Brown. I would say Mr. Jarvis, I don't know why. Mr. Brown. Returning Nationals, I regret I don't have an update because it's early days yet and I did not ask for an update. I have had quite a few calls, however, and I've directed them. We are in the process of setting up that unit that we spoke about, and we've identified someone to lead it, and we're hopeful that we'll have that set up fairly soon, but certainly there has been some interest, but I don't have actual numbers for you. You mentioned mold and you mentioned the Charlestown Police Station. As far as I know, there is construction work that is still ongoing there. That is a project being undertaken by the federal government. And I don't have a recent update, but I would anticipate that that work should be finished certainly this year. It has been going on for a while, and we expect that the police will be back there in short order. Lawyers charged in syndicate. I, in fact, said something about it on social media, on Facebook. I find it very sad. It seems to me that many feel that to become a lawyer, it's about passing the requisite exams. While that is important, to me, the bigger part of being a lawyer is the ethics, the integrity that the profession has. The law is one of those few professions that is allowed the courtesy of regulating itself. And so I am waiting to see what the Bar Association is going to do in relation to these rogue elements within the legal profession, how it's going to deal with them. One of the things, for example, that has troubled me, Mr. Brown, is that we have lawyers who are charged with very serious offenses who, I'm told, continue to practice like nothing happened. And whilst I understand that every person is presumed innocent until proven guilty, I can't comprehend how somebody charged with such serious criminal offenses can still be holding themselves out. To me, there should be some provision where there's at least some suspension until those matters are cleared up. But some of them continue as if nothing has happened. And we have been struck because I think not one, not two, but three lawyers we've heard about charged with very, very serious matters in the last fortnight or two. And so it's a serious matter. I think that, when colleagues in Jamaica, for example, can send me press article asking me what's going on in St. Kitts Nevis, I'm embarrassed by it. That is not the standard that we expect from lawyers. That's not the standard we expect from people who are charged with upholding the law. I ask the question, who's going to guard the guardians? Because if you are the guardians of the law and you are bent on breaking the law, then we have a very serious problem in our country. And so I'm to hope that those in the profession now, those who are coming into the profession, that if any of them has been tempted to do what is wrong, they right that ship and they start to do the right things and be ethical. Be ethical, because ethical considerations are the core of who we are as lawyers. I think I can include myself in that. Talks in terms of Israel and Hamas, peace talks, I think what benefit to St. Kitts and Nevis, I don't know if there's a direct benefit, but I think that less instability, less conflict in the world is of value to the people of the world. And St. Kitts and Nevis being a part of the world, we prefer to be a part of a world that is peaceful. We prefer to see the suffering ended. The suffering, of course, that was inflicted in Israel on that October 7th attack, but also the suffering that has been inflicted on the people, the children, the women of Gaza in the Israeli response. So I think that we need to see that suffering come to an end and to see conflict come to an end. And so I am hopeful that those talks can be successful and that people can be allowed once again to live normal lives. You asked about businesses owing Nevlec and Water Department. Some you say owe large sums, but yet people who owe a little bit to get cut off. Truth is, I've said to the minister that we ought to be consistent in our approach, and I believe that they are trying to be more consistent. But just to explain sometimes what happens is that you take a business, for example, that has several employees, 5, 6, 7 people working there, and they owe for water, they owe for electricity. If you close them, if you disconnect them, you basically close down that business. That affects not just that business owner, it also impacts employees and things that are there. And those kinds of considerations sometimes are taken into account. But I hear the point you're making, which is one of fairness. And so the position that we've taken is that, listen, we will apply across the board. And disconnection is something that we've used as a tool. Because a lot of people, you know, Mr. Brown, not paying. But the minute that they go home and the power is off, they catch the next bus to town with their money to pay. So it tells me that they had the ability to pay. You see, when you talk about the cable companies, you talk about the phone, right? They don't hold up with you. They don't hesitate. You don't pay, your service is gone. With government now, people say, man, you don't pay no water this month. You don't pay no electricity this month. But nothing creates an outcry in the society like when you don't have water or when you don't have electricity. So we know it's a valuable resource. We know it's an essential resource, but many times we don't want to pay for it. So we've adopted an aggressive position of disconnection, and the big businesses as well will have to pay their part. Some may argue they're much better positioned to pay their part. Increments are to start in April. That was the agreement when we did the budget. And so we are expecting that the evaluations and all that are being done now, so that once we get to the start, the restart, and remember that we had initially stopped increments because of COVID and the struggles that the government was enduring. And then thereafter, we had introduced a 15% salary increase, and we don't give increment plus increase in the same period. So now that we passed both of those things, we have reintroduced the increments for this year, but we said that they would start in April. But I remind you, Mr. Brown, and remind the public that they will not be automatic, and that increments which traditionally have been tied to performance, that we will insist that persons are able to demonstrate that they are performing in order to access the increments. So their supervisors and all those will have some work to do in order for those increments to flow, but increments should start to flow in April. That was the agreement. Any other questions for me?
Okay, Hewlett, Department of Information. Is there any concern about losing aid for certain programs with the U.S. president freezing foreign aid and doing all manner of things? In terms of the lawyers, I was going to ask about that, but considering that 2 of those are Crown Counsel that have been charged with, among other things, perverting the course of justice, what effect do you think that that has?
Crown Counsel?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
The young lady before and one of the 2 most recent.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
If he isn't now, he will.
He is,
I think he
okay.
said he is, yes. So what effect do you think that that has on the public's confidence in the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions? And should the DPP step down in light of the corruption uncovered under his watch? Also, absenteeism in the public service appears to be quite rampant, and a lot of it is more or less blatant. Ain't nobody hiding to do nothing anymore. You have persons taking sick leave one day and are seen at fetes and other events and overseas having a blast. Persons not showing up for work without calling or otherwise notifying department heads. Is it that the regulations governing the service need to be revised to give the department heads and PSs, permanent secretaries, more power to administer disciplinary actions? Or, as has been suggested, that the government lacks the political will to discipline workers for fear of political reprisal from them, their families, I ain't voting for you, or whatever the case may be. And those are my few questions.
Ms. Hewlett, thank you very much. Losing aid for programs, yes, is definitely a risk that the new U.S. president and new policies will impact. I can tell you that already we had announced that we had secured, I believe it was just over $300,000 US for the Bath Hotel. And that was coming through a U.S. program. I'm told that there's some question mark now as to whether or not that those funds will still be available. It is unusual that restrictions will try to be retroactive. Normally, if they're going to do a new policy, they say, well, all right, this has been committed already, we will honor that, but going forward, we're going to change. It looks like this approach by this new U.S. president is that, listen, we stop everything, cold, and that there is no opportunity. So I anticipate that, yes, we have agencies like USAID and those that do great work in St. Kitts, Nevis, and in the region, and I anticipate that they will suffer. We are yet to understand the full ramifications, and it's early days yet. So while President Trump has been signing executive order after executive order, I think that it's very early. For example, one of the early executive orders, remember, was to stop people from getting a passport, citizenship for their children, if their children are born there. Many of us here in Nevis know that women head off to the U.S. to get their children so that they get the U.S. citizenship. He tried to stop that, but I'm told that that has already been blocked now in the court. So there's a lot of things that grab the headline, but the implications for it, we're not yet sure where that's going to go. So we'll wait and see. Lawyers, Crown Counsel, should the DPP step down? I don't think the DPP should step down. The DPP, I believe, has come out and he has said quite clearly what has been happening. There are no allegations, as far as I'm aware, against the DPP. And the fact that there are people working in his office who have transgressed or are charged with some transgressions. And the fact that he is quite prepared, as he has said, to prosecute them and to do all that is necessary, I think arguably is a good thing. It says to us that the system is working. And when, the people lose confidence in the system, in my view, when people are aware of situations, but certain people appear to be too big or too powerful, or they appear to have connections, and so they become untouchable. That's when people start to lose confidence. But once I think the view of people is that this is a serious DPP, and you have people in his office who have allegedly committed crimes, and he's prepared to come public, he's prepared to do the necessary, then I don't think any issue arises, absent some allegations against him, that he ought to step down. There hasn't even been any allegation that I'm aware against the DPP. So we'll have to wait and see how that goes. Absenteeism in the public service, blatant sick leave, etc. Ms. Hewlett, this is it's a position that has existed from time immemorial. You ask, should the regulations be tougher? Are we afraid politically? I can say I'm not afraid politically at all. But here's the dilemma. A lot of times when these complaints reach to me, I'm the head of the public service in Nevis as Premier. And I say to HR, Human Resources, can you pull the file for so-and-so because I'm hearing these negatives. You'd be amazed sometimes, Ms. Hewlett, that the file shows no evidence of any of those negatives. The fundamental problem that we have in Nevis, perhaps because we're such a small community, is that, I'm going to pick on you and Ms. Weeks. Ms. Weeks is your supervisor in the office. You're not doing what you're supposed to do. But Ms. Weeks is reluctant to write you up. In Nevis, we have a thing where people say, well, we don't want to be responsible for nobody losing their work. You and Miss Weeks may go to the same church. You may be sisters at church. In Nevis, it's so small that there may be a familial connection. Somebody may be dating somebody's cousin or married to somebody's brother. And so what we have had, and I'm talking about real experiences. I remember one situation where a principal at a school complained vociferously about a particular teacher. It was not pleasant at all what was being suggested that this teacher was engaged in. But when we pulled the file, we said, but principal, you haven't written up. Not me. I nah go write nothing. All I know how bad this teacher is. But the government cannot respond in terms of disciplinary proceedings. We cannot ask the Public Service Commission to do anything unless things are documented. So, whilst, yes, the government is a single entity, and you asked me the question as a head of government, my response is that we need our supervisors, our managers, our department heads, our permanent secretaries to do their job. And where they are errant public servants, and I don't want it to be suggested that most are, because the majority of our public servants are hardworking and conscientious people. But you do have elements of people who are not prepared to do the work. People who are on sick leave for months at a time. And like you say, you see them up and down. Right? They're all over. They're active. Social media, they're active traveling. But I'm going to say something, and I hope I'm not too controversial either. The doctors can sometimes be a part of this problem. Because I'm told that there's some doctors in Nevis, when you go by them, they ask you how much sick leave you want. How much sick leave you want, and they just sign the paper. So, in St. Kitts, for example, when I was a member of cabinet there, I remember that they decided for the police that they would not accept sick leave certificates from certain doctors anymore. Because they knew that those doctors were sick leave doctors. You go and you pay them, and they sign something and tell you to take off a month. So the medical profession also needs to be responsible. Because if those allegations are correct, it means that there are individuals within the medical profession who are giving people leave to which they're not entitled. And you know and I know, Ms. Hewlett, that I can't watch you and say, oh, you're not sick. If you say something is wrong with you, I can't determine whether or not something is wrong with you. That's where you go to a doctor. But if the doctors themselves are in the sick leave business, then they just tell you, as I asked, how much time you want today? All right? You want to go home and sleep? All right, let me give you a week. Go and get some rest. And that is happening as well. So we have to address it at all levels, but I can't control doctors. What I can say within the government, we need our supervisors and our department heads to do their job. Because a lot of them will call you on the phone and complain, but they will refuse to put anything in writing. Because they don't want nobody call their name, they don't want to get nobody in trouble, and you get that kind of sentiment that comes. And as I said, maybe because of our society, our culture, maybe because we're a small community, but that is a fundamental part of the problem that we have. Anything further for me?
I just want to put on record that the police high command clarified that only one Crown Counsel was arrested and charged. The gentleman who was charged recently, he has not been a Crown Counsel for a few years, but he was a Crown Counsel at one point. All right.
So he's no longer
a Crown Counsel. Question from SKN Newsline, Andre Huey. Does the NIA have a maintenance plan for the upkeep of government properties in the interest of safety and health? And he says that's like schools, sporting facilities, all buildings, etc.
We do it ministry by ministry, so there's not a overall comprehensive plan. For example, it talks about sporting facilities that will be managed by the Ministry of Sport. Schools will be managed by the Ministry of Education. In fact, the Ministry of Education has a maintenance team that's attached to the Ministry of Education. We have other agencies in the government who do likewise. Ministry of Health and Social Development, they too have a team that's attached to them. And so they go around and their job is to maintain the clinics and the health centers, etc. Those in education, their job is to maintain the schools. But there's no comprehensive government-wide plan. It is ministry by ministry. That's how we've done it. Even the plan that we've just announced, where the cabinet took a decision to clean and test for mold, that also is going to be done ministry by ministry. So I can speak to Premier's ministry, which interacts with the courts and the courthouse, and I could tell you what was done there. I know that some of that deep cleaning and testing has been done in various areas of the Ministry of Health. We had a problem in an abandoned area of the hospital that is being looked at. That will be done by the Ministry of Health. So it's not, I can't point you to a single plan and say this is a government plan, but I can say that ministry by ministry there is maintenance of the various buildings, and in some ministries they actually have a maintenance crew that has been hired and assigned to that ministry for that purpose. Anything else?
Just one question.
Sure.
ICE has been deporting like crazy, the United States government. Have you received any information about deportation of St. Kitts Nevis nationals?
Ms. Weeks, no, I have not yet heard anything. Again, I think that it's probably too early. You know, you have a lot of the headlines that are breaking news, and we know that President Trump has said what he intends to do, but whether or not it's going to happen, whether or not it's going to happen at the level that some people are predicting, I have said that it is perhaps better to plan, for sure, but not to panic, because we don't know. First of all, you have to catch them to deport them. I don't think people are just standing around waiting for ICE to come. So that's the first thing. Secondly, there are some sanctuary cities in which a lot of our people live, like New York and those places, California. And those cities, in fact, in New York, I saw something recently where the NYPD, the New York Police Department, is not allowed to assist ICE. So ICE has to do its own work, which ICE was complaining makes it harder for them to do. So I think we'll have to wait and see, right? We'll have to wait and see. I'm just not clear. I've seen some publications where people have alleged that these are the numbers to come home. I'm not sure how they come up with those numbers or where those numbers come from. But what I will say to you is that it's important for St. Kitts Nevis and I think for wider CARICOM to come up with a plan as to how they intend to manage. I am not as concerned about managing what I would call our ordinary people, for want of better language, meaning people who might have gone up there and overstayed. I am more concerned with how you manage the criminal element. If it is the plan to clean out the prisons, for example, and send home to the Caribbean those who might have committed incredibly violent crimes in America, those who are career criminals, who might be in federal penitentiary, and you say to them, well, all right, back to Jamaica you go, back to Antigua you go, back to St. Kitts Nevis you go. How do we manage that? And so I'm thinking that we really need a plan in place. But one of the concerns, of course, is how do you monitor and ensure that those individuals aren't then allowed to filter through the region. So, for example, you know, we have freedom of movement in the OECS. So what if a very dangerous criminal is taken from prison and sent home to Dominica? Just drawing a reference. What will prevent him from deciding, I'm not going to stay in Dominica where people may know me, let me go to St. Kitts or Nevis, or let me go to Antigua? So I think CARICOM needs to articulate a plan and let us, the public, know what that plan is going to look like so that we could have some comfort and some reassurance that somebody deported to Trinidad doesn't make his or her way to sink his Nevis if that individual was involved in some violent crime or had been incarcerated in the United States. So we need some work, and I fear that I'm not hearing anything coming from CARICOM on this. But to me, we need a regional response to this. Bearing in mind, however, Ms. Weeks, that our people are our people. And we can't decide we're not going to accept our people because they are our people. And a man who's from Hamilton or Hanley's Road or Deep Bay or Taba is entitled to come home. Whether he comes home willingly or they send him home, he's entitled to come home. So we have to accept them once they come to our borders because they're our people. But for me, the issue is how do you now manage and how do you integrate them? Especially some of them may not have any family here, may not have any support network here. Some of them would have left. When I was foreign minister, I had a case where a young fellow left at 5 or 6 and went to the Virgin Islands, where he was now 42. And they were talking about deporting him because he had got himself involved in criminality. And he asked the question about housing, where are you going to stay? You know, he doesn't know anybody, he doesn't, never been to St. Nevis. As after he left at 6, never came back. Now you take him off a plane at RLB and tell him, go about your business, where are you going to go? So we have to have those questions asked and satisfactorily answered. But I do believe that while it behooves St. Nevis to have a plan, we need a wider CARICOM response as to how we deal with that, and particularly the threat of criminals coming back into the community. Anything further for me? Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. 2 hours, not too bad. Thank you for being here, members of the press, and thank you for all of the questions. And I hope that I provide clarification to you. We look forward, certainly, to seeing you next month as we host another press conference. Thank you. God bless you.